Record? Yep. Evening again, everybody. It's actually still Thursday night. It's the same day as I recorded my last video. And I figured I've got a bit of spare time, and it's still at work. Well, I've just been just doing a little bit of reading. I thought, well, I've got a little bit of spare time, why not make another video? There's a handful of things I could talk about, but one thing in particular that's been on my mind just recently is something I have mentioned in a couple of videos just recently, is the idea of actually starting to make my own jewellery. It's my own wooden plugs and tunnels. And I know I've only mentioned it somewhat briefly in a couple of recent videos, but I thought I'd sort of get my thoughts. Something I like about making these videos is it's something I can use to actually think things through. It's just become quite a useful tool that I can use to actually think things through and set things out in my own head and start to make a plan. And I've really been thinking just recently a lot more about properly getting onto this and starting doing it. Because where I live now, my hair's gone a bit mental. Where I live now, I have a shed in the back garden already, and it already has electricity running to it, so it's absolutely perfect. So I could very easily, pick up a lathe and just get started. It's not something that's going to happen right away, but it's pretty much something I've 100% set my heart on now. We've got a couple of slightly more important things to sort out in the house first. Firstly, we need to get our boiler sorted. It sort of doesn't work particularly well at the best of times. It's quite an old boiler. But we also found out, because we looked into having it replaced when we first got here, and we also found out that it actually has the flue actually has asbestos in it. So that's something we need to get taken care of at some point, and that's something I hope to do in the very near future. But that's not cheap. So yeah, that's something we need to get sorted out. That's probably the first most important thing we need to get sorted out. And then second to that, we've noticed that in our loft, we have an attic, a loft. It gathers a lot of condensation to the point where the whole ceiling is just dripping with water. And I don't really know anything about that sort of stuff, but I'm fairly certain it just it needs better insulation. It needs better ventilation. There you go. So that's something else I'll need to sort out. But I had a friend who had a similar problem. He said it wasn't too much of a problem to sort out. It wasn't cheap, but it wasn't expensive to sort out. So that's something else I will look at doing in the near future as well. But once we start making headway on those things, then I really am considering picking up a lathe and actually starting to make my own jewellery. And something else recently that's encouraged me to go that way and it's something I've thought about for quite a while, but something else that's put it back into my mind again is obviously the fact that I've just ordered some new earrings. I ordered them, what day was it? I want to say Friday last week, Friday last week. And yeah, they to get earrings made at this size and shipped over. Granted, I'm having them shipped over from America, but it cost almost close to £70 to have them custom made for me, have them shipped over. And yeah, I could have got them a little bit cheaper than that, but I went with a company that I trust and I know makes good quality jewellery. And that's not the be-all end-all of it, but it's something that is fairly important to me, knowing I'm getting a decent quality product. Because I've had problems with a couple of places in the past with having sub-quality products, and the companies that I dealt with, that I was dealing with at the time, they were absolutely useless, and it just put me off them completely. So now that I know this particular company, the same one that I got these from, this particular company, they do decent quality jewellery, and I've spoken to them via email in the past, and they've always been very kind and helpful and answered any questions I had. So that's why I've elected to go with them. However, it's still £70. So my idea is, going forwards, is to maybe sort of January, February time, start properly looking into it and pick up just a small lathe. I won't need anything big, because obviously, I mean, you can get a reasonably priced lathe where I could make earrings up to sort of 300mm or so, and I'm probably never ever going to be that big, so I just need a relatively, oh yeah, I've still got the 29mm set to my nose, just in case you're wondering. I don't need a relatively expensive lathe or anything like that. And I was thinking, obviously the initial down payment to buy the equipment would be, so it'd probably be a few £100 just to get a halfway decent one, plus the various other little bits of equipment I'd need, like chisels and files and all that sort of stuff. But once that initial down payment is in place, or that initial investment, I suppose you could call it, is in place, actually making the jewellery and buying the blocks of wood is not that expensive at all. I was, a while ago, a chap who I used to get jewellery made from before he kind of let me down a couple of times, so I went off his product. But I was talking to him about it, and he was saying you can get, and he showed me where he gets his stuff from, and you can get sort of decent sized blanks of wood for literally sort of £10-15 in nice wood. Like, you're talking things like ebony and pink ivory. So nice, high quality species of wood. And like I say, the initial investment for buying the actual equipment was obviously going to be a bit pricey, but over time that means, first of all, it means I'll have more control over exactly how fast I stretch, because as it stands at the moment, there aren't too many places. A lot of places will obviously let you customise jewellery to a degree. Like, I have quite a thick wearable area. I have a 16mm wearable area on all my jewellery. But obviously they only go up in certain sizes. Like, I think this company, Esoteric Organics, for anyone wondering, I forget exactly offhand, but it's either 1.5 mm or it might even be 2mm between each size, if I remember correctly, something like that. Whereas I would much rather stretch with just 1mm at a time. And when you want to have that much of a that specific an increase each time, the amount of places that actually offer that get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I just think if I could get myself set up and actually make my own pieces, then I'll have much more control over my own personal journey and my own personal progress. And obviously, if it only ends up costing me, in terms of raw material at least, and it ends up costing me, say, even £20 a pair, that's a massive saving, and it wouldn't be too many pairs of earrings before that initial investment in the equipment has actually paid off. So I'm very, very much thinking of doing that in the near future. And I know I've mentioned it before in the past, but ever since putting the idea out there, and I know this is something I said I probably wouldn't do, but I admit just recently I've been fantasizing a little bit about the idea of potentially making, once obviously I get experience making jewellery of my own, I mean, I'll be able to make stuff for my ears, stuff for my conchas, stuff for my nostrils, and potentially even stuff for my lip as well one day. Actually, that's a good point. Potentially I could be making my own massive lip plates, who knows. But I have just recently been fantasizing with the idea of actually starting up my own small business, just as a little side business, and actually making jewellery for sale. It's quite a daunting prospect. Obviously it's something I have no experience with, actually running my own business. However, I'm lucky in that both my mum and my dad both own their own small businesses. My dad being a motor mechanic and my mum being a hairdresser. And so they will, at the very least, they'll be able to help guide me through the process of getting started. So that's a big thing in my favour. But yeah, that's something I'm very seriously considering, and it's just been, like I say, it's been going through my mind, and I've just been fantasizing about it just a little bit recently. And bear with me 2 seconds, I'm cooking some I'm cooking some burgers. I think they need to be flipped over. Bear with me 2 seconds. Oh, the bin's in the way. Sorry, I should have thought about this. 1, 2, ouch. Ouch, God, blimey. Yep, sorry about that. That was rather hot. But yeah, so yeah, luckily I'll have I would be able to get at least some basic guidance in getting set up as my own little business, doing something like that. And it certainly wouldn't be something I would ever expect to make a full-time living out of. But even if I don't know, maybe I could cut down my lorry driving, so maybe end up doing perhaps, I don't know, 2 days, or say 3 days driving and then 3 days just making jewellery or something like that. Just to, as a way of supplementing my income and not being away from home all the time. So that's, yeah, that's something I'm very seriously considering. I say, if that ever does come to pass, it will likely be a long time in the future. Yeah, and like I say, initially the reasons I for wanting to do this, obviously, like I say, initially is to have a lot more control over exactly how much I stretch and when I stretch and stuff like that. And secondly, definitely the financial side of it pays off. For example, I mean, these are 74 millimeters, I think. I always forget what they are. They're 74 or 75. They might actually be 75 millimeters. I can't remember offhand. It's not really that important. But regardless, like, I've still got my other jewellery right here. Regardless, I plan on going a lot bigger. And say, for argument's sake, say these are 75 millimeter. This is 99 millimeter. So that's, if I were to go up in size 1 millimeter at a time, and I were to get every single pair made by some other company, that is a hell of a lot of money. And say hypothetically it does cost me £20 per pair to make. These and the pieces I went, say, doing nearly £70, I have them made and shipped over. That's basically a saving of £40 to £50 every single time. And even if this is as big as I go, and I do plan eventually on going a lot bigger than that, but even if that's as big as I go, that is hundreds and hundreds of pounds saved over the course of my life. So even if it costs me a few £100 just for the initial setup, I firmly believe it will pay off in the long run. And it's something very much worth doing. Let me turn it down. And that it is something very much worth doing. And so, like I say, who knows, maybe it's something further down the line I can actually turn into a source of income as well. So, but yeah, that's all things to think about. And yeah, like I say, very much at the moment it's all just a fantasy, but who knows. That means, obviously, on a day like this where I can't go into work, I could still be earning some money through one source or another, which is something nice. And plus, it's not something I see too many YouTube videos about. I see quite a few wood turning videos with lathes and things, but there aren't too many videos specifically about making plugs and making tunnels. So that's something that I think might be quite interesting for a few people to watch sometimes as well. But yeah, so I have, again, I think I've mentioned this in the past, my granddad used to have several lathes in his back garden, and he would make me toys and things like that. And I would fiddle about with them and play about with them myself. And yeah, I did used to really enjoy just messing about, just making silly little things and stuff like that. So I guess in some way that seed has always been there as well. And this is, I suppose in some ways, all in a daft sort of way, it's almost carrying on my granddad's little little hobbies and his legacy of making bizarre little things and doing stuff. So that's kind of silly, but it's kind of cool at the same time. So yeah, anyway, it's all something to think about moving forwards. And yeah, so we'll have to see how that goes. So fingers crossed, I will start looking at it a bit more seriously probably in January, once I get Christmas and New Year's out of the way. It's something I'll look into a little bit more seriously then. I will, no doubt, I will continue to think about this and refine my direction and ideas. And I might well make another video about it a little bit further down the line. But yeah, for the time being, it's all up in the air, and it's all, the cogs are starting to turn, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's something to look forward to anyway. So yeah, thanks for listening to me waffle on for nearly 16 minutes now. And I will speak to you all again soon. I'll probably get this uploaded at the weekend. I'll speak to you all again soon, and I'll hopefully get a few more videos up and sorted out in the near future, and hopefully there won't be too much of a break between them. Anyway, another quick look at the 20 and 29mm nose there. As I say, it's been in for a couple of hours now, and it still feels pretty comfortable. It's definitely tighter. I can tell it's definitely tighter than the 18mm piece. 28mm piece, but then it would be, of course. So yeah, anyway. Maybe, who knows, maybe I'll end up with enormous great earrings if I get into a situation where I can make myself. That's the fantasy anyway. Ciao for now. Speak to you all again soon, and